Hi there, this is Anais Smith. Welcome to my channel on mediation and family law and related matters. So, I am a qualified mediator and advocate, and I have a substantial amount of experience in the matter. Today, I want to discuss a topic very close to my heart, and that is adoption. So, a lot of times, people considering adoption think that they need a lawyer or an attorney. The fact is, you don't really need that. You will only need an attorney to intervene once there are issues with the adoption. Maybe it's become opposed for some reason, and then you will need the court's intervention, and then obviously the assistance of the attorney. But generally, you just use a social worker. So there are two types of social workers that you can use. You can either use a government social worker, or you can use a private social worker. So the problem with using a government social worker is it's nice that the service is for free, but due to the big load of work, it's difficult to attend to your matters timelessly as expected. Whereas with a private social worker, yes, you need to pay a fee, but at least they can assist you to get the adoption finalized quicker. So I want to just go through the list of documents that you need and just give some clarification. First of all, before I start, you always need to know that you need the original and you need 3 copies, certified copies of all the documents to take that to the social worker. And you also need to remember that some of the documents take longer to obtain. There are costs involved, and the documents are also have an expiry date, like your police clearance certificate. So the first document that you will need is your ID copy, duh, and your marriage certificate if you are married, or a decree of divorce. If you are living together, then you will just tell the social worker so that they know which documents are required and which are not. Secondly, you need a character reference from 3 people. So that will be a family friend, your spiritual leader, maybe a work colleague. Then you will need a letter from your employer confirming employment. Thirdly, you need to get the unabridged birth certificate of the child. So if you don't have that already, you can apply for that at your local Home Affairs office. So basically, for that, you will need the ID copy of the biological parent, because you need to fill that ID number in. And you will also have to pay 60 or 80 Rand. So then you will fill in the form, you'll hand up the documents, and then it will be approximately 6 to 8 weeks, and then you will be able to obtain a printout of the birth certificate. I would recommend until obviously once the adoption is finalized, you'll get a new birth certificate, but maybe while you're waiting for the adoption to be finalized, it is wise to maybe obtain 2 copies, because you need 2 printouts, because you'll have to give one of the originals to the social worker to hand in at the court file. Then fifthly, you need to draft a list of incomes and expenses. You also need to consider that there are some incomes that you will not receive. So your social grant will fall away as soon as the adoption has gone through. And now that you have adopted the child, your government's subsidy will fall away, which means that you will basically have to apply directly to the school in order to get a subsidy if you need one. Then the sixth document that you need is a doctor's report. So for this, you will just go to your local GP. It will just be 1 or 2 page report where they will just give a short summary of your health, and as well as that of the child. That is usually just a normal consultation fee. Then seventhly, you need to apply for a police clearance certificate. So the police clearance certificate is also about 120 Rand. So what you will do is you'll go to your local police station. You'll ask them that you want to apply for a clearance certificate. Then you will pay about 120 Rand. They will take your fingerprints and a copy of your ID and attach it to the form that you've completed, and then they will send it away. The nice thing about the police clearance certificate is that the department actually sends you a SMS confirmation once they've received the documents, and they also send you another SMS once the documents are ready. The documents are only valid once the certificate has been issued. It's only valid for 6 months. So when you apply for that, take it into consideration so that when you apply for the certificate, it's close to the adoption process being finalized, so that you don't end up having to renew your police clearance certificate. Document number 8 is a letter from SASSA confirming that you are not listed on the register for sex offenders. So the register for sex offenders is something that the government created so that to protect children. So if you are found guilty of a sexual offense to a child, your name will be listed on the register for sex offenders, and then obviously if people inquire about that, it will reflect on the list. So you need a letter to say that you are not on that register. Then from the school, if the child is of school-going age, you need to obtain a school report as well as a letter from the school confirming attendance of the child. If the parents' whereabouts are not familiar to you, the biological parents, then you will have to advertise in the national newspaper. So this ad will basically contain a date, so it will be the birth date of the child. You'll put in the name of the parent, and then you'll just the ad will just say attention, say the name of the father in connection with the adoption of a boy or a girl born on this date. Please contact the social worker, and then the telephone number of the social worker is there. So that's a newspaper advertisement. Once it has been placed in the newspaper and you've seen it reflecting there, you need to obtain 4 copies of the newspaper. So for the adoption, you need 4 copies of the newspaper, because obviously you can't make a copy of the newspaper, so you need the 4 original articles. Then cost relating to this, I think it can be anything between 400 and 600 Rand, depending on the newspaper that you are going to use. And then obviously the parent that you are attempting to contact will have about 60 days to contact the social worker. If there's no contact with the social worker, then you will assume that the parent doesn't have an interest in the child. So once the parents are around, the parent will go and see the local magistrate at the family court. That magistrate will explain to the parent what their parental rights and responsibilities are, and the effect of those rights and responsibilities being taken away. In this case, them consenting to the rights and responsibilities being taken away. So once the magistrate has explained all of that to the biological parent, and once they have signed the consent form for the child to be adopted, there is a 60-day cool-off period. So what happens with the 60-day cool-off period is that once the parent has signed, 60 days, the 60-day period starts. If, say, at day number 45, the parent withdraws his consent, then the whole process stops. Then the social worker will contact the parent, maybe discuss with them what their concerns are, and then if the parent then signs again, then the 60 days will start afresh. If the parent for some reason or another are just completely obstructive and the court notice that it's in the best interest of the child to be adopted and this parent is just being obstructive, the court will grant permission for their rights and responsibilities to be taken away, and the court will give consent that this child can be adopted by the adopting parent. If the child is 10 years and older, the child will also have to give consent. So the same process, the child will go and see the magistrate, and then magistrate will discuss with the child what's going to happen. Is the child happy to be adopted by this parent, and what's the implication? And they will also discuss with the child the fact that he or she will never be able to see their biological parents again. Some cases, biological parents are granted access to the child, but it's not ideal. So most cases, it will be a clean break, basically. So then once the child has signed this consent, then that's the last aspect of the documents that has to be compiled. So once all the documents are together, the social worker will then put all the documents together. The social worker will compile a report indicating that they have had an interview with the adopting parent, they had an interview with the biological parent, they had an interview with the child, and it's in the child's best interest that the adoption process proceeds. So once that report is submitted, the court will give a date. So then the adopting parents, the child, and the social worker will all attend the magistrate's office. So this is a very small setup. It's very informal. It's not an open court. It's only the people that are physically involved in this adoption process that is allowed inside the room. The biological parent will not be there. It's only the adopting parents with the child and the social worker. Then once the adoption is granted, the court will issue an order and a letter to say that the adoption has been finalized. So once you have that letter, you take it to Home Affairs and then you fill out forms, and then they will issue a new birth certificate containing your details as the new parent, as that of the biological parents of the child. So this is very exciting, and it's a very rewarding process for both the child and the parent, and I would really recommend it. If there are any further questions, you can put it on Facebook in the comment section, or here on this YouTube clip. I would be very happy to answer any questions that you might have on the process. Thank you for tuning in, and have a nice day.